14,810 acre-feet per year, without a drop of water from the project they've constructed on Lake Travis. For a total combined Austin, Round Rock, Cedar Park, and Leandale municipal water shortage from 2020, after water conservation adjustments of 14,810 acre-feet per year. I think it's appropriate for the board to consider these water conservation adjustments that are supported by the 2011 regional plan. The water code allows you to consider whether an applicant has agreed to achieve water conservation. And in this case, the water conservation goals set in the regional plans. Now, as to the second issue that I mentioned, unreasonable impacts on exempt wells and existing permitted wells. As Mr. Johnson has described, NDOT and Aqua Water Supply Corporation have entered into a settlement agreement in which NDOT will put money in a fund for Aqua's use in mitigating the impacts of NDOT's pumping on Aqua's wells, and into a fund to be used for mitigating the impacts of NDOT's pumping on third-party wells. The general manager objected to some very detailed proposed permit conditions regarding these mitigation funds that were proposed by NDOT and Aqua on the grounds that they would enmesh the district in what are essentially private contract disputes between Aqua and NDOT. But NDOT and Aqua have now proposed some more simplified permit conditions that essentially provide that if NDOT fails to make the payments into either mitigation fund, then the district may take action against NDOT, including the revocation of NDOT's permits. The general manager has no objection to these new permit conditions, to the language of those new permit conditions, and they have been provided to Mr. Ellis. Finally, and briefly, I'd like to address achievement of desired future conditions. Mr. Johnson referenced some findings that the ALJ made about the availability of the resource for future generations. Those findings are not addressing the desired future conditions. They're addressing the amount of storage in the aquifer. But what the water code requires you to do is to manage the Simsboro aquifer on a long-term basis to achieve the adopted desired future conditions. As the numbers discussed in the original proposal for decision from the ALJ show, the GAM model predicts that the district-wide desired future conditions can be achieved, or very close to achieved, if pumping in the district remains at 1999 levels and NDOT is authorized to withdraw approximately 30,000 acre-feet per year, or if pumping from exempt wells and existing permitted wells increases as projected from 2010 to 2060, and NDOT is authorized to withdraw approximately 13,000 acre-feet per year. These numbers produced by the GAM are conservative but protected. The law says that you cannot change a finding or conclusion of an ALJ except for certain defined reasons, which are set out in the brief that has been provided to you by NDOT. They also say that you can't vacate an order issued by the ALJ, but no final decision has been issued by the ALJ in this case. You get to make the final condition. Nothing that I've discussed with you is in any way inconsistent with the findings that the ALJ has made in this case. Some of them are additional information, but none of them are contrary or would require you to change any of the existing findings. That's all I have. Thank you very much, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Yes. In the hearing packet, it says the shortage in 2020 is only on, in Williamson County. Let me turn this on. Is 12,737 acre-feet.
And you're wondering about the difference between that and the 14,810 acre-feet. Yes, here's the difference in that, which is that the number in the proposal for decision assumes that the city of Cedar Park could get the full 18,000 acre-feet that it had previously contracted with the LCRA for, which was more than it was actually getting before it built the Brushy Creek Regional Utility Agency project. The numbers that I showed to you assumes that Cedar Park would get nothing more than what it was already getting from the Brushy Creek Regional Water Field. So that's the difference in that 2,000 or so acre feet.
But they already have a contract for that?
They do. They have a contract for 18,000 acre feet per year.
Okay.
That's what the evidence shows. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Emma?
Good evening. As Mr. Johnson stated, I'm Stacy Reese, one of the attorneys representing NDOT. And Mr. Ellis, can you confirm that I have about 10 minutes left for rebuttal?
I think that's.
Or Mr. Talbot?
I'll give you 10 minutes.
Okay, great, that's what I had calculated. I want to spend my 10 minutes talking to you about the limitations that are imposed by statute in terms of overturning or making a change to an ALJ's findings, of facts, and conclusions of law. And then talk to you about the evidence in the record with regard to the 2 points that Ms. Melvin is focusing on, which is the amount that will be put to a beneficial use in a 5 or a 30-year period, and then what amount, whether or not the permitted amount would help achieve the desired future conditions. I gave you a packet on the statutory limitations imposed upon the district when reviewing a proposal for decision. It's a tab 2 in that binder. I don't need you to read it right now, but I do disagree. I'll go over the 3 points with you, and I do disagree with Ms. Melvin's characterization that finding any of the facts that she has suggested should be the permitted amount would not require a change in the findings by the ALJ. There are 3 limited situations that would support a change. I contend that none of them apply. It sounds like Ms. Melvin agrees that they don't apply either, so I won't spend time on that. But if there are questions about that, feel free to read the brief, and I've also cited case law supporting the court's enforcement of that statutory limitation, meaning that they do enforce those 3 standards, or the 3 reasons that would support a change. One thing that before I delve into the record, one thing that I do just respectfully disagree with Ms. Melvin on is about her characterization of our agreement with the regional water plans. I think Ms. Melvin stated that we all agree that that's the best evidence. NDOT doesn't agree that that's necessarily the best evidence to demonstrate the amount that will be put to a beneficial use in a 5-year period. We agree that that is some evidence, but as the ALJ concluded, that's not necessarily the best evidence or the only evidence that you would consider. So let's take a look at what the ALJ found in